Hi VC, James Griffiths, the Vinyl Professor, here with you on Friday afternoon. I think it's the 25th of November. Yeah, I'm back. I've had a couple of mad weeks, just work and domestics, just all the usual things. So I've made a couple of attempts to do this video and both times aborted, but I'm here now anyway. So I'm going to do another vinyl finds video for you. A couple of weeks ago I uploaded a video. I showed you what I'd bought at Heightside Records, which is a market stand. This guy that comes to town every so often, and he's got some really good stock. And I bought some really good things. I bought James Brown, Otis Redding, some quite nice collectibles really. So today I'm going to show you what I bought the following weekend when I went back, and I've had some doubts about whether to show some of this stuff, because unlike the last video, some of the things that I went back for this time were more kind of collection fillers, I suppose, rather than just like really nice things. They were just things I kind of wanted that are not particularly special, but I thought, what the hell, I'm just going to show them anyway. There's no point trying to second guess yourself. I mean, the VC is full of people showing like just such amazing music, interesting stuff, Greg Short, Doug, so many people, Derek obviously, and I sometimes feel a bit strange about showing things that are perhaps a bit more, run of the mill, you might describe them as, but I do have a couple of interesting things. I'm not selling this video very well, am I? I'm listening to something really good. This is Joe Jackson's Jumpin 5. I think this is the album he made just before Night and Day, or possibly after Night and Day. It's a kind of jazz album. I mean, it's not a kind of jazz album, it is a jazz album. Jumpin' Jive, You Run Your Mouth and I'll Run My Business. It's kind of old tunes from the 40s and stuff, like Jump Blues. I never realised that Joe Jackson was so talented. I knew he was a good songwriter, but this is a really great album. If you really, if you're looking for a sort of jazz on a summer's day album, get this, it's fantastic. He says turning it down. I bought that record, not from Heightside, but from a tiny little record shop in North Wales called VOD Music. A few weeks ago I did upload a video where I showed the shop. I'll put the link down below so you can have a look if you haven't seen it. Really tiny record shop in North Wales. It's about the size of a key cutter's booth. I mean, you kind of walk in there and there's room for about 2 people, literally, to browse the racks. I've got some stuff from there to show you as well, but I'll start with some new things. This is an album that I meant to pick up a while ago. I read about them in the Guardian newspaper, I think. I thought they sounded interesting and I didn't follow through with it. And then I saw Tom show this, High Rant District, and I thought, yeah, definitely want to get it. And I'm pleased I did. This is absolutely fantastic. This is the Sleaford Mods and Divide and Exit. It's on Harbinger. How to describe this? I mean, you can get a glimpse of what their live gigs are like. Kind of, hang on a minute, it's on nice red vinyl. Imagine like messed up hip hop, but very British. A bit like the Streets. Shades of Ian Dury, shades of just mod stuff really, but stripped right back, kind of primitive beats. It sounds like squat music, squats in the UK, places where people don't pay rent and they just kind of, hole up and, sometimes have parties. Quite squalid, quite seedy. But I mean, there's a really nice atmosphere. Also, nice atmosphere. A squalid atmosphere. There's lots of swearing. It's quite X-rated. I put it on actually, and the kids were upstairs, and I had to turn the sound down. Yeah, the Sleaford Mods. It is kind of mod music. It has that kind of attitude, but like I say, it's kind of stripped down, messed up, quite angry. The reason I wanted to get it was just this kind of frustration you often get with, that I often get with the state of pop music today, where you start to feel that nobody's really got anything to say about what's going on, and there's some heavy stuff going on in the world right now. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that. So I just fancied listening to something that was a bit agit pop, agit mod. Great album. Thanks, Tom, for prompting me to get that. As a complete contrast, I finally got around to getting the Nectar album. Remember the Future. I've seen a few people show this. I've seen Vinyl Richie show it. I've seen Dean Everest show it. Just kind of classic prog from the 1970s. I'm not a big expert on prog. You know, I mean, I know my Yes, I know my Genesis, but you know, I don't have a kind of intricate knowledge of the genre. This was an interesting listen. It sort of reminded me of the Moody Blues, mixed with early Yes and early Genesis. Nice label, but funkier. It's got kind of, you know, wah-wah guitar. It's got some really good kind of, you know, stinging rough dump guitar work on this, and the vocals, oddly enough, reminded me a little bit of Steve Marriott in a strange kind of way. So yeah, I was really pleased that I picked that up. Nectar, Remember the Future, a concept album if ever I heard one. And the other reissue that I got was Mingus This is a 180 gram reissue. I've had this album on CD for many years and I always enjoy it, but I've never quite been convinced by it. It always sounds to me a little bit like an album which is kind of showing off, or it's kind of, you know, desperately trying to be liked. It kind of runs around like an excited puppy at your ankles, you know, yapping away at you. It's not cool. It doesn't kind of lie back. It jumps at you, and I find it a little bit fruity after a while, if I can invent that word. I find it a bit much, you know. But I thought I'd get it just to have it on vinyl, to give it a few more tries, you know. And it sounds really nice, so I'm really pleased that I got it. That's Charles Mingus. It was kind of his tribute to kind of early forms of jazz, really, you know, and gospel as well. It kind of, you know, links him back to his roots. It was released in 1959. Worth hearing. Okay, so let's just whiz through the stuff that I bought. Let's start with Vod Music, which is the tiny little record shop in North Wales. I picked some things up there. I picked up this 12-inch by The Wedding Present. A couple of people have been recommending this band to me, and I do know their music a bit, but I know Andy, Cloudy Milder, is into them. Headley as well, another fat bearded man, talking about records. Now the reason I picked this one up is that it has a cover version of the Beatles song Getting Better, which I was really intrigued to hear because, you know, that's one of the Beatles' more kind of upbeat, cheery kind of songs, and I couldn't really imagine it getting the Dave Gedge treatment, but it works. I mean, I think that's the sign of a really good band, isn't it, when they're able to take a song which isn't even necessarily in their style and just make it their own. So that was a nice pickup. The actual single is Why Are You Being So Reasonable Now? So there was that. And then I'll just quickly run through these because it's stuff you've seen before. I finally picked up a copy of the Peter Gabriel Melt album. I think that was about £5. I picked up Eye of the Zombie by John Fogerty. I'm a big fan of Creedence Clearwater Revival. I love John Fogerty's guitar playing and his vocals. I knew this album would be a little bit dodgy because it was released in the 1980s, and sure enough it does have that kind of big kind of boomy 80s sound to it. But the songs are good. I'd say it's a 6 out of 10, that one. Lloyd Cole and the Commotions, Easy Pieces. This is their second album. The weakest of the three that they made, I think. Picked up another Jerry Rafferty, Night Owl, which I think was the one after From City to City by Bill. And I also picked up another Everything But the Girl album. This one is Idlewild. Enjoying that, a bit of sophisticated electro pop from the 1980s, yeah, 1988. I think of them as being a 90s band, but they kind of started in the 80s and then they really became big in the 90s with that song I Miss You. Very, very good. Excellent. So just to finish, what I picked up at Heightside on my return visit, I picked up a copy of Aztec Camera, Knife. What an album. Absolutely brilliant. I know John Downing's really into Aztec Camera. The actual title song, The Knife, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I need to get more by this band. Roadie Frame. I do like a bit of the old Scottish. Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, their first self-titled album, Chili Electronica. They haven't quite formed their sound yet. I think I like this more than the later stuff. Copy of the Police album, whose title I can never pronounce, but you all know it, you've all seen it. A reissue of Japan's Quiet Life, which is actually a non-gatefold version. I think this came out in 1984. Brilliant album, Japan. The Pretenders, Learning to Crawl. This replaces a copy that I lost. I had this album in my collection for years and I lost my copy of it. I don't know where it went, but I have it back and it is a fantastic album. It has the wonderful guitar playing of Robbie McIntosh, who went on to be in Paul McCartney's band. And it has my favourite Pretenders song, Show Me, but it also has that incredible cover version of Thin Line Between Love and Hate. I played that the other night. It was a really amazing experience to hear it. Absolutely fantastic. Can't show the next cover because it's a bit rude, but I did finally pick up a copy of Roxy Music's Country Life, Fleet, so I'll save that for another day. And then I picked up a couple of Thin Lizzy albums. Again, this was to replace one that I lost. I had this in my collection back in the day. Couldn't find it anywhere. Bought it again. Great album. And this is a really good one actually, Bad Reputation. This is a Lizzy album that I'd never heard before, although I had heard the single, of course, Dancing in the Moonlight. Brilliant album, that. Great sound to it. It's produced by Tony Visconti. So that's what I've been buying over the last few weeks. So I'm sorry I've been away for a little while. I'm going to try and get back on track now. Just before I go, a couple of shout-outs. Flipside, Steve's been doing a great series on Bubblegum, and fortunately I actually had picked up an album by 1910 Fruit Gum Co, and I didn't know anything about it, and it turns out that this is a Bubblegum album, and watching Steve's channel was very illuminating, so check that out. Also Grebo69 Graham has done a great series. He did like a little road trip, you know, buying records, and he's done a really great video on Julian Cope. Watch Grebo69 Julian Cope special. Inspired me to pick up a copy of my favourite Julian Cope album, Peggy Suicide. Bought that one on Discogs. Fantastic record. Check out Graham's channel, he's great, he's cracking. Jorgen's been doing some great things, his top 10s of songs throughout the years, and his worst songs, his top 10 worst songs ever is worth checking out. And just 2 words to finish, Jeff Party. If you haven't checked out Jeff Party, check him out. Fantastic channel, classic rock. The guy really knows what he's talking about. If you write messages on his channel, he replies. You get a lovely dialogue going with Jeff, and he just shows great records, and he has a marvellous way with words, shall we say. Jeff Party. Okay, VC, thank you to subscribers old and new, and I'll catch you later.